Welcome to Voices, a storytelling show organized by Off-Kendrik in this beautiful Charles River Museum. I am going to thank you all first for coming here on this really nice early summer day and taking the time to watch the show. I'm Shankha Bhomik. I'm the artistic director of Off-Kendrik, and Voices was conceived about 10 years ago, so this is our 6th show. We do it every other year. We started in 2016. Storytelling from the South Asian diaspora was something that we felt was important. Storytelling, I think, is a very good way of communicating across cultures to showcase the wonderful diversity that has made the current country what it is. And I think despite a lot of negative feelings that have been thrown around about diversity, I think shows like this are very important, and they're going to highlight why we need to keep communicating with each other. Voices is a show in which individual tellers get up and share their personal experiences, and that growth, I call it a journey, and that journey is a deeply personal journey, and you will feel the range of emotions which we can all identify with, irrespective of our cultural backgrounds or where we come from. And that, I think, is the power of storytelling. I'll get started with the format of the show and what we are doing today. Just to give you guys a brief overview, there are 7 exciting tellers who are seated over here, and they will be introduced by the wonderful coaches. We have 3 coaches. I'll get them to the stage, but the coaches will introduce each of the tellers. After 5 tellers, we'll take a short 10-minute break. There is water and free snacks over there. The bathroom is on this side, so you can take a short break. And after that, we'll have 2 more speakers, followed by a panel. As I said, understanding different cultures and reaching out to each other is a big part of what Off-Kendrik likes to do through theater and storytelling. Today we have invited, or we are fortunate to have 3 people from the Iranian diaspora with us. And what we want to do is we want to have a short interactive panel that I'll moderate after our speakers. So please stay back for that. The total length of the show we anticipate it being for 2 hours, including the break. So hopefully we'll be able to wrap up by around 9:15 if everything goes smoothly. The other thing that we want to say is that Off-Kendrik is proud to team up with the artists that support immigrants. There is a lot of ICE raids and other things that are going on, in the community. And a lot of the immigrant community have been torn apart. Families have been torn apart. So there is a fund that has been set up for them. Some of the proceeds from this show are going to go into that fund to support artists. So we feel as a community that is very, very important to us. Without further ado, I would like to call Chandri Lahiri to the stage. Yes, and so Chandri has been like the anchor for Voices for the last 10 years. She has been diligent in setting up this show, doing a lot of the legwork, and she's of course one of the coaches, and they will be taking over. She's an avid storyteller. You could have seen her in many storytelling shows. She's a writer. And she's an active coach for the Voices program. The next person I would like to introduce is Mohua Shen Mukhopadhyay. Mohu, you want to come over here? So she will be introducing the speakers, but I want to introduce. So Mohua is a prolific writer. She's a part of Off-Kendrik. She has been a storyteller as well. And finally, last but not the least, Urmi Purokasto. She is a social justice advocate. She's a part of Off-Kendrik, and she's one of the coaches. She has also been a storyteller. So I would like to hand over to the three of them, and whichever way they want to go, and introduce the speakers, and I'll come back again for the panel. Thank you all.
I'm going to grab the mic to do another couple of lines of introduction to say that those of you I'm grabbing the mic to say, those of you who are new to storytelling, can we have a show of hands? Is this your first storytelling show that you've been to? Wonderful. We love that that you're venturing into a new section of the performing arts. But I have a request for you. I have a request for you to be participants today and not just passive listeners. It is not easy for people to bare their hearts and be vulnerable. And we have 7 tellers today and a panel who are going to be doing just that. And what they need from us is we need people who have open hearts, open minds, who are accepting and forgiving if they forget their lines, if it becomes difficult to tell their story and they need to take a breath. Are we all going to be there for them? Yes, we're going to hold them. And I would love to get a round of applause just to show these brave people that we're with them. Right? Okay. We're all doing this together. And our first teller is going to be introduced by their coach.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, you cannot hear. Oops. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah. So the trailers are the huge help here. Okay, so I'm going to introduce the first teller tonight, Voices 2026, is Shoham Bhadra. He has raised in New Jersey. Shoham got the third culture kid experience between attending public schools on weekdays and spending nights and evenings attending Bengali community events with his family. Currently, he is a Massachusetts resident. He spends his days working in tech, of course, and his nights teaching dancing and emceeing at swing dance events. So the story has a brief mention of death. I just want to tell that beforehand. And I'm going to call upon Shoham on stage, and his story is called, What is in a Name?
I don't know how the rest of you introduced yourselves, but for me, for a very long time, the standard method was putting my hand out, putting on a big smile, and saying, "Hi, nice to meet you. My name's Show, like Showtime." And it would work. People would shake my hand, they'd smile back, and things would move right along. But Show isn't my name, is it? My name's Shoham Bhadra, and growing up, I was a pretty nerdy kid. I grew up in central New Jersey in a relatively diverse town, but usually I was still the only Bengali kid in the room, and that meant I was the only one who had a name like mine. And even beyond that, I was a little bit of an outcast in just about every way you could think possible. I was pretty socially awkward. I was way too eager about academics in a way that kind of annoyed all of the other school kids. And I love my mother to death, but she had an unfortunate tendency to dress me in 2-piece Tasmanian devil sweatsuits. So my fashion sense wasn't doing me any favors. And all of that felt hard, but honestly, one of the things that was hardest was the first day of school. I'd be sitting there, the teacher would be going down the attendance list, and it would happen. I'd see their eyes narrow, their mouth kind of twist up at the corners, and then I'd hear, "Shoham Bhadra." And I'd sink in my chair a little bit and raise my hand, feeling a little dejected, and say, Actually, it's pronounced Shoham. But the damage was done because remember how I mentioned those school kids that didn't like me so much? Well, they're very creative. And Shoham was too good of an opportunity for them to pass out for some good old schoolyard bullying. So we came up with such joys as show beef, show pork, show turkey, show chicken. You get the idea. My name became a punchline. But I soldiered on and started to feel like I had my footing. But then, when I was 13, just about to start high school, my world turned upside down. My dad died. And everything just felt like one whirlwind of just grief and fear. And it made the rest of high school just pass by in a blur. But by the time I got to senior year, I was starting to find my footing again. I was feeling like, I got this. But of course, that meant that it was time to pack up and go off to college. And that brought a whole new set of fears. See, high school was full of jerks, sure, but they were jerks that I knew. College meant a whole new group of people and a whole new group of people I had to introduce myself to. And just the combination of all of this just brought back to the surface all of that fear that I felt from when my dad died. And suddenly I was sitting there thinking, what if I can't fit in? What if I can't make any friends? What if I end up alone and abandoned again? And when you're feeling this sort of fear, you'll kind of grasp at anything that you can feel some amount of control over. And I knew I couldn't control how I looked. I knew I couldn't control how socially adept I was. But I could control my name. I could take Shoham and sand down the foreign edges so that it would fit comfortably in the mouths of strangers. And so I packed away Shoham with all of my high school belongings, and I became Show, like Showtime. And honestly, it worked. Suddenly, people were remembering my name. No one was stumbling over it. No one was asking me to repeat myself. It felt like I'd hacked the system. But then my second semester of my freshman year, the first crack in this strategy started to appear. I was taking a class on Asian Americans in the media taught by the actor Kal Penn. Now, if the name doesn't ring a bell, you've probably actually seen him in quite a few things. For example, House on TV, the fantastic movie The Namesake, and of course, the cinematic tour de force, Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. He was telling a story about how early in his career, he had to make a conscious choice to stop going by his given name, which is actually Kalpen Modi, because when Kalpen Modi was at the top of the audition sheet, he never got callbacks. And so he had to leave Kalpen Modi behind and become Kal Penn just to get work. And he was talking about how conflicted he felt having to leave behind his culture and his identity just to be able to find work. And I was sitting there in class, and I just felt a pit in my stomach because he was describing exactly what I had been doing, but my stakes were so much lower. Did I really need to be going by this other name? But college has a way of kind of making you forget about all these things between homework, hangouts with friends, and discovering fun new extracurriculars like swing dancing. I just kind of sat there and was like, you know what? Show is helping me fit in. Why get rid of him? But then several years later, when I was getting towards the end of grad school, the second crack really started to appear. I was watching a special by the comedian Hassan Minhaj, and he was telling about a time when he was on the Ellen DeGeneres show, and she had mispronounced his name, and he stopped her there on live TV and forced her to properly pronounce his name. And this was insane to me. Like, there is this guy with a name like mine telling daytime television royalty in front of millions of viewers that she had to say his name right. If he could do that, what was stopping me from actually going by my name? So, Show had been giving me such a good sense of memorability amongst other people, sure, but it really felt like I was living two lives. In one life, I was Show, the fun-loving, gregarious guy that everyone knew. in the other life, I was Shoham, the son of Bengali immigrants who could speak Bangla and who had really strong ties to his heritage. But ultimately, both lives were being lived by me, Shoham Bhadra. And the more I thought about this, the more I just realized there was no good reason to stick to this nickname, to stick to Sho. And so those cracks grew, and the dam broke, and my identity as Shoham came rushing back through. And it's been about 10 years since I decided to ditch Sho, and I'm so glad that I did. Because like I said, Shoham is a name with a rich cultural heritage. It comes from the Sanskrit soham, which is a phrase that ties the self to the fabric of the universe. It's a name that ties me to my culture. It's a name that ties me to my family, spread across multiple continents. And it's a name that ties me back to that little boy in the Tasmanian devil sweatsuits who really deserved to have his name pronounced correctly. These days, I don't dread introductions. I do try to make it a little easier for other people to know my name, but I do it on my terms. Now I introduce myself as Shoham. That's Sho, like the thing you watch on TV, and Ham rhymes with mom. See, I had the right idea back in college. I just needed to be a little more creative with the delivery. Thanks.
Can you beat that? I first want to say go Shoham Bhadra. Our next teller tonight is Chetan Tiwari. Come on stage. Chetan is a civil rights attorney for people who are wrongfully convicted, incarcerated, face employment discrimination, etc. He's an avid sports fan, a budding writer, and enjoys stand-up comedy. But his favorite thing to do is hang out with his wife and his 2 daughters. Before he begins his story, there's a slight trigger warning. This story does mention death. His story is Nazar.
I'm at my 6-year-old daughter's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class. She's a gifted athlete, but she is naturally timid, and her timid nature holds her back. When she's sparring, she tries to methodically apply the technique of the day, and the other 6-year-olds will just aggressively throw her to the ground. I watch her get aggressively thrown to the ground for months. I watch her struggle for months. I don't know who it's harder on, her or me. But on this particular day, the class splits up into pairs. She's getting ready to spar, and the parents are cheering and coaching. Think Roman times, the Colosseum, gladiator combat with 6-year-olds. We've come a long way in society. And her sparring partner's dad, he's sitting beside me. He has a smile on his face. He's also seen my daughter struggle. He thinks his kid's in for an easy win. They line up, the bell rings, and my daughter doesn't get thrown to the ground. She defends. She sweeps her opponent and pins her, scoring points. I'm amazed. I'm thinking, is her opponent taking it easy on her? And I sense the dad beside me thinking the same thing. They reset, start again. My daughter passes her opponent's guard, takes her back, and scores more points. I sit up straight. My eyes are wide, jaw is hanging. The dad beside me, sitting up straight, eyes wide, jaw hanging, but for different reasons. My daughter is putting it together. She dominates the rest of the round easily. And as she's doing it, she's glancing at me, looking to me for some sort of support, some acknowledgement, looking to be seen. And I don't give it to her. Why? Nazar. No, Nazar is a concept from the Eastern world. It's loosely translated into the evil eye. Growing up, we learned that don't celebrate too much. Don't get too excited. Nazar's waiting for you. Nazar is a force that just sits over your shoulder, glaring at you, waiting for you to make that mistake. And as a kid, I experienced Nazar in a very real way. It's a story about my dad. When my dad was 18, he immigrated from India with a scholarship to study engineering at Tulane. After he graduated, he got a job delivering pizzas. He was stuck. Eventually, he broke into the engineering world, but he stayed stuck. He couldn't get past the entry-level positions. He was a good engineer, but he kept getting passed over for promotion. Was it his skin color, his personality? Do we really know? Yes, it was his skin color. No need to gaslight ourselves. We're really good at it. Eventually, he got tired of being stuck, being the main breadwinner in the house with 3 little kids, a wife, and a large extended family. 14 of us living in a 4-bedroom house. So he gambled. He took a risk and rolled the dice with all of our futures. And he opened his own business. Now, he was always a hard worker, but this gamble changed him. He was out the door at 5:30 in the morning, and he wouldn't come back till late at night. And when he came back, he would finish the pack of cigarettes he started smoking that morning, eat, and watch TV. I think he would stare at it more than watch it. And when the day had sucked the life out of him, he would go to bed. It was like watching Bill Murray in the movie Groundhog Day, watching him live the same day on repeat over and over again, from the time I was 8 till the time I was 13. And when I was 11, it seemed like things were working out. That old car with the vinyl seats that ripped your skin in the summer heat, that got replaced with a skin-friendly car that had air conditioning. Dinners out were no longer at McDonald's, they were at the Olive Garden. We celebrated these things. And we thought maybe he could have the life he wanted, and maybe he could be seen as a brown man in a white profession. Then, on April 4th, 1994, he had a massive heart attack. I was kneeling beside him when he convulsed, his eyes rolled back, and then he was gone. I was 13. Nazar. Its message was clear. And I carried that message with me through college and law school. And I didn't realize it. It took 12 years as a civil rights attorney to realize that I held on to this message. As a civil rights attorney, my job is to push boundaries. My job is to advocate for my clients. I put me and my client in our case in court to be examined under a microscope by white authority. And that makes me uncomfortable. I hold back. I hire white co-counsel to legitimize my existence in this profession. I sometimes maybe settle cases just a little bit too early. I hold back because I'm uncomfortable. If I hold back, if I stay unseen, Nazar avoids me, right? Back in the dojo, these thoughts are churning through my head. As my daughter is breaking through her timidness and just desperate to be seen and asking me to be the one who sees her, I can't do it because I want her to stay safe. And I want me to stay safe. I don't want us dealing with Nazar. And in this instance, Nazar wasn't this shadowy figure in the background. Remember that dad sitting beside me? Him and I both practice jujitsu. We're signed up for the adult class after this one. I'm bad at jujitsu. He beats me regularly. And after watching my daughter beat him, I sense him turn to me, and he is over my shoulder, glaring at me, waiting for me to make the mistake of celebrating. He is Nazar. But with my daughter motivating me, with my daughter having broke through her barriers, the fear inside of me and the discomfort starts to crumble and just melt away. I turn, I look at the other dad, I smile, turn back to my daughter, and I start clapping. Slowly at first, then louder, and then loud enough for her to see me and feel that she's been seen. We meet, our eyes meet, we smile at each other, and it feels good. But that dad did kick my ass the next class. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chetan. Our next speaker is Meenakshi. Meenakshi is a multimedia artist, storyteller, ceramicist, writer, director, and experimental filmmaker working in digital installation and 16mm film. Don't ask me to say that 5 times. Her work explores women's lives within the patriarchy and the immigrant experience through plays and short films. She loves working with analog cameras. She has been affiliate faculty at RISD, UMass, Lowell, Emerson College, where she got her MFA in Film and Media Arts. She also has an MBA from the Indian Institute of Management in Bangalore. And she has worked in corporate strategy at a Fortune 500 company. Explore her work at MeenakshiGarodiaFilms.com and MeenakshiGarodia.com. Just a note that all these bios are on a huge poster out front. But also, if you go to the website, there's a digital playbill, so you'll get to click on links and explore who they are, which I totally think you should. Meenakshi's story that she's telling us today is called Driving Alone.
It's the morning after my 18th birthday, and I'm standing outside my house in New Delhi, buzzing with nervousness and excitement. The first present I got on my 18th birthday was a certificate for a driving class, and I'm waiting for the driving instructor to pull up, and I can finally drive. It's something I've been dying to do, to sit behind this machine and drive it independently. Driving's everything I wanted it to be. It was fun, but also terrifying. And I don't know how many of you have driven stick. It's not easy. So I was also one of the first among my friends to learn driving, so that was very exciting. I got to take all my friends out and take them for ice cream and drives, and it was just a lot of fun. But this was Delhi. There were rules. The spoken aloud rules were, try to never drive alone. If it's dark, never ever drive alone. The unspoken rules were, if my dad or a guy cousin is in the car, they are the drivers. If I'm going out at night, it's better if I ask a guy friend to come who can pick up and drop me so that I'm not driving alone at night. The society was telling me, be scared, be very scared. And while I tried not to be, I was just a little bit. I did do things to try to counteract that, like I learned to change a tire, I learned a little bit of karate, but that's a different story. When I moved to Boston, I brought along my love of driving, but subconsciously, I also brought along these rules that society had for me. Like, don't drive alone at night. In fact, don't go out alone at night. And I was following those rules, and then I was like, I want to change this. I want to do these things that scare me, and till they don't scare me enough. And something which is as simple as just coming back home from the tea at 11 o'clock at night alone might seem simple, but to a sheltered girl from Delhi, it was very difficult. Then one day, me and 2 of my sisters decide to do a driving trip around Iceland. I'm going to be the primary driver, and one of my sisters who hasn't driven in years is going to get back on the horse, or rather the driver's seat in this case. So we are going to circumnavigate all of Iceland, and we are super excited about it till we go into the car rental place, and they tell us the specific do's and don'ts of driving in Iceland. One of them is never open your car door fully. The wind can blow it off. It's a real thing. Another is, if you're using Google Maps for navigation, don't just take any road. Most of them just end, or if you're not in a 4-wheel drive, you'll get stuck. We were in a teeny tiny European stick shift car. But we were like, okay, we're going to manage. This is not our problem. And we start off. Now, our trip to Iceland was soon after this Bollywood movie with Shah Rukh Khan, based in Iceland. And if you don't know Shah Rukh Khan, go Google him. So we decided to hit the spots that were in the songs. We start off with the black beaches and the waterfalls, and we're trying to reenact what he and Kajol were doing. But instead of chiffon sarees, we were wearing like 4 layers or 5 layers. It was really cold. Then one of my sisters left, leaving just my other sister and me to finish the circumnavigation. And we'd make a pact. So I love taking photographs. And my whole life, it's always like, can you hurry up and take that photograph? Can you hurry up? We need to leave. Stop taking photographs. And my sister loves taking photographs too. So we are like, we make this pact that while driving, if we see anything we like, we are just going to stop and take a photograph. It was the drive and stop pact. So we're driving along and we see this beautiful waterfall. So we're like, stop, take a photograph. We're driving, and that time you had these fields of alpine lupin, which are like these purple flowers with green leaves, and they were literally all the way to the horizon. So we stop and take a photograph. You had baby horses and lambs in fields. So we will stop, take a photograph. And then we're driving over this bridge at dusk. And this bridge doesn't have any railings, and it's really beautiful, but it's paved on both sides. So we look at each other, and I pull over. Except it's not paved. It's black sand, and our car starts sinking. So we look at each other, we're like, we got this. So we try to accelerate out of it. Except the tires sink lower, much like my heart. So we come out, obviously opening our car doors carefully so they don't blow off. And we stand there and we're like, we're going to call for help. There's no shame in asking for help. Except there's no signal. And then it starts raining. And remember how I said the bridge was just slightly above the water level? So we have visions of a teeny tiny European car floating away. Anyway, this other car pulls up, a tiny car, but it parks in a manner that it's not sinking. And these two people come out. They look like tourists, but then they take out these light-reflecting jackets, and we find out they're very organized tourists. Except being organized doesn't mean you're skilled in getting cars out of black sand. So they try to say, let's try this, and the car goes lower and lower. Then another couple of tourists pull up, and now we are 6 of us standing around this car, and we're like, it's a teeny tiny car, let's lift it. We couldn't. So now I'm the older sister who's got my younger sister into this thing, and I'm feeling very responsible and also very helpless, which is not a good feeling. And we're in this country away driving ourselves. It was just very uncomfortable. And then these 2 big cars drive up, park again nicely without sinking, and these 2 men walk out with ropes. And we smile at them. We're like, are you search and rescue? They're like, no, we're just Icelandic people who are used to tourists. They know what to do. They tie the rope to my car, they tie the rope to their car, and they pull us out. We thank everybody profusely, and we set off again, looking confident, but then we pull over to the first coffee shop we see, and we freak out. We are like, we were stuck here. What would have happened? All sorts of worst-case scenarios. But then we look at each other, and we realize that we were in this really difficult situation, but we managed. We were able to do it despite being alone, just the 2 girls, without a guy. And we set off. We did the whole circumnavigation. We went to these sulfur springs in the north. We went to the glacier in the east. We went to the mountain ravines in the west. And it wasn't like we didn't face challenges. There were a lot of other challenges on this trip. There was this 2-hour stretch where I could just see 5 feet ahead of me. And no street lights, nothing. Another time we were planning to camp overnight, except it was really cold and raining like Bombay monsoons. But we figured it out, and we kept driving. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So our next teller is Dr. Nidhi Lal. Dr. Lal is a board-certified family physician and clinical associate professor in the Department of Family Medicine at Boston Medical Center. I'm not sure if she is accepting new patients or not. But she's deeply committed to serve the underserved and underprivileged communities and has dedicated her career to advancing health equity. I must say this story has both the mentions of violence and death, and her story calls Then There Were Two.
Thank you, Moa. Can you hear me? Okay. Better? Okay. So, my story starts on a Friday afternoon. My clinic is, as always, is booked to capacity. And I have a medical student who's working with me and very interested in polishing his history-taking skills. So I tell him, the next physical is yours. This patient is going to be a work physical. Make sure you check his social history, his past medical history. Treat him like a person, not just a task. I give him 20, 25 minutes while I go see another patient. I really need to keep moving on, you see. 25 minutes later, my patient's and student's door is still closed. I can't be behind, so I knock and enter. As the door opens, the first thing I see is my student sitting on the desk, looking completely overwhelmed. A depression screening form is on the table beside him. The door opens a little bit further. A voice filters through. They killed him. The door opens completely, and I see my patient sitting in his Johnny, completely calm expression, no agitation, no tremor. This contrast unsettles me. Did he just say those words? Did I hear what I heard? And so now I'm flustered. I start with introducing myself. I say, "Hello, I'm Dr. Lal." I glance over at my student. He's not jumping up to present his case. I let him be. I know now that something heavier than clinical teaching has entered this room. So I ask my patient, "What brings you here today?" "I need a work physical," he tells me. "I need to start working. I need to move forward in this country." "Okay," I tell him. We start his physical. My hands move from habit and training. But as I'm inspecting eyes, looking into ears, auscultating his heart and lungs, my mind is still thinking. I'm thinking beyond blood pressure and screening forms. I'm thinking about mental stability, acute grief. Again, did he just say those words? I need to find out. So as I lay him down and start to feel his abdomen, I look into his eyes and say, "Thank you for talking to my student. I'm sorry I missed the initial conversation, but did I hear someone got killed? Who died?" He looks at me directly and says, "My brother," and looks away. This was not the answer I expected. I offer my sympathies and tell him how sorry I am, but the words feel really thin. He inhales and starts to explain. "My brother was a farmer in his country, in our home country. 3 days ago, he went to pay wages to his laborers. They probably did not agree. There was an argument that resulted in a fight, and they killed him. They cut off his head. I don't know what to do." My patient continues. He tells me, in his country, the government has trained regular people with some basic paramilitary training and called them so-called crime preventers. At the slightest sign of opposition, they resort to violence. This is why he left. This is why he needs his work physical, so he can continue living here, making a job, making a wage, earning. I finish his forms. I am very worried about him. So I continue a little bit more. I ask him, "Your brother died 3 days ago, in a different country, on a different continent. How are you holding up? Are you sleeping okay? Do you have someone you can talk to?" "I'm sleeping fine. I talk to my pastor when needed. I really need this work physical," he tells me. So I fill out his forms, get all the paperwork done. He appears relieved. He has achieved something concrete and can now go to work and earn his wage. I, on the other hand, still want to know more. I want to see how stable he is. So I continue the conversation. I ask him, "How long have you been in this country?" 2 years, he tells me. "And I have not seen my family since then." "Who is in your family?" I ask. "My mother had 8 children." This is not the answer I was expecting, so I'm almost forced to ask, "How many boys and how many girls?" 4 of each. "And who lives with you in the United States?" "It's just me." "And who is back home?" "My youngest brother. They killed them all." And before I can stop myself, I say, "Can you bring your brother here to safety?" He exhales, gets up from the table, and starts dressing up and says, "This is not possible," signaling that the visit is over. I close my laptop, close my computer. I have done his physical, filled out his forms, but my mind is racing. I'm torn between grief and relief. Relief because I've done his work, he can move on, he can go forward. Grief with the story he just told me. I want to make sure that he understands that we are here for him. My patient leaves. In medicine, we are trained to ask questions, to diagnose, and to intervene. But some stories come fully formed, requiring not solutions, just witnesses. This was one of those stories. As my patient leaves, I worry and carry the burden of what has not been said, what cannot be asked in a single visit or measured on a screening form. And I hope that he will trust us with his story. And when he returns, and I know that stories like him always return, I hope he remembers that there is a safe space in my clinic, on my exam table, for him to share the grief that has not been given permission to speak yet. Thank you.
Wow, Nidhi. Proud to call you my friend. Our next story is by Pooja Sharaf. Pooja moved from Mumbai to the US about 18 years ago. She's called Boston her home for the last 10 years and lives here with her husband, daughter, and their cat. She finds meaning in her work as a psychologist, and like most people, is trying to find time for her passion for dance and for writing. Her story is titled Sounds of Home.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Okay. As I entered the parking lot, I immediately felt myself loosening up. There it was, the Indian grocery store. Next to it, an Indian restaurant, a sari shop, and a jewelry store, gold gleaming through the windows. A stretch of home in this new city that I moved to a couple of weeks ago. I was in Houston to complete a one-year internship in psychology. This was to be the last year of my doctoral program. The internship had started off well. I quite liked my coworkers. But the evenings got lonely. You see, despite training to be a psychologist, I wasn't exactly the kind to strike up a conversation with a stranger or make friends easily. And before Houston, I was in Laramie, Wyoming. Laramie was a small town tucked in the Rockies, really beautiful. Everyone knew everyone. So I had a great community of friends there. And my husband was there, finishing his own grad school. So I was really missing all of them. I was especially missing the evening chai routine with my husband. And so here I was to buy my supplies to get my favorite red label tea and a mortar and pestle to crush ginger with for the chai. I entered the store and a song played through the speakers. Tujhe dekha to ye jana sanam. I stopped walking. I had not heard Hindi song playing in a public space for many years. I was not expecting this. I slowly brought myself back and started to roll the cart inside. I know I had a smile on my face. There were rows of fresh Indian vegetables on one side, and on the left there were shelves of Indian lentils or dals in all shades of yellow and orange. I was in Mumbai with my mom, shopping in crowded superstores. I thought I'd been missing my friends and my husband in Laramie, but I realized that I was missing much more. It felt like I had missed a few stops and that I'd gone much further into the past in my train, much deeper into myself. I kept shopping in sort of a happy trance, and my cart kept filling faster and faster. Because you have to realize I was in Wyoming. It was really beautiful, but Indian food there was practically mythical. The nearest Indian grocery store was in the next state of Colorado, at least an hour and a half away. So Indian community there treated trips to Denver like humanitarian missions to gather food for the needy. Someone would send out a text, "I'm going down this weekend, does anyone need anything?" And an entire community would come back with neatly curated lists. Garam masala, green chilies, curry leaves, paneer. Shoppers would come back like heroes, warriors, descending into an apocalyptic world to save mankind from extinction. The rest of the time, we improvised. Walmart tortillas became rotis. We made paneer from gallons of milk and vinegar. So you see, here in Houston, having a store within a few minutes of my apartment felt like hitting a lottery. I had to finally stop myself and bring myself to the checkout counter to learn the damages of my excursion. At the checkout counter, there was this older Indian couple in front of me who was acting a bit strange. They kept looking back at me and shooting me smiles. It took me a bit before I realized what was going on. I realized that I must have been whistling. You see, when you hear the song, "Chura liya hai," you sing it, but I go, I've always been like this and I don't even realize when I do it. In India, also, whistling in public wasn't exactly considered feminine, so I would avoid doing it. If I accidentally did ever do it, I would get quizzical or admonishing glances back. This might have been the first time that it earned me a smile. It made me smile back. When I left the store, I was in pretty good spirits and feeling great. And I wasn't done yet. I had my sights set on the Punjab Palace next door. I ate like there was no tomorrow, and to compensate for all the yesterdays, I topped it off with the sweet dessert of kulfi faluda, which settled my tummy and my soul. I finally end the day and get into my car to drive home. And I'm hit with this warm, humid evening breeze. Again, a flashback to the warm embrace of Mumbai. I rolled the windows down further and I breathed in deeply. And then I switched on the radio and started to flip channels. Again, Hindi. I came to a sudden stop. In all of my years in the US, I had never heard Hindi on the public radio. A smooth, honey-dipped voice wafted in through this radio. सुनने वालों आप फ़ोन करना मत भूलिए अपनी फरमाइशों के साथ. The RJ was requesting listeners to call in with their song requests. And another RJ joined in, talking in a kind of Hindi-Urdu mix, which completely took me back home again. Growing up, radio was a constant companion. First thing in the morning, playing hits of the week, and through all-nighters with mellower voices, mellower songs. I hadn't realized that I missed it so much, or that it even meant so much to me. As I reached home, I quickly put away the groceries and pulled up this channel on the laptop. The apartment didn't quite feel as lonely anymore. There was this friendly chatter, banter going on, and some familiar songs were playing. So riding the high of the day, I call in. They pick up. I request a song. And on an impulse, I say, I can whistle it too. And I do. There's a pause. The RJ asks, was that playing on the computer? I said, no. Can you do another one? And he suggests a song. And I do. Now the RJ gets really excited and he asks me a couple of questions about how can you do that? How did you learn to do that? And then he invites other listeners to call in with their whistling talents, just to get a bit of friendly competition going on. I hang up, but I'm tuned in. I was actually surprised by his interest. You see, I had always thought of whistling as this random ability, a non-talent, a funny or silly thing that a friend can do, like move their ears in a weird way or roll their tongue, or like a filler act that you ask someone to do in front of the more important acts. I'm number 5 here also. But I'd also not ever whistled to an audience before, and I was very curious to see if there were others out there like me. So a funny thing happened. Listeners called in, but instead of whistling themselves, they called in to ask me to whistle their favorites. Of course, I called back in, and I whistled a few songs. So first came an 80s request. Then my 90s favorite. There's at least one of you here who's like me, so you better meet me in the break. By this time, I was pacing in my bedroom, getting a bit breathless, and my lips were getting dry, but I kept going. Someone asked me to whistle an English song just to test my range. I was on cloud 9, needless to say. And then the show ended, and the RJs invited me back on their show in their studio to whistle for a whole show. So later that night, alone in my apartment, as the chai was finally brewing on the stove, I had a realization. Home doesn't always arrive all at once. Sometimes it arrives slowly, in warm breezes, in friendly smiles, in tastes, in radio voices, and sometimes, if you try, in the sound of your own whistling, drawing others to you. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll take a 10-minute break. There is water and some snacks outside, and the bathroom is on this side. And Chandra has a couple of quick announcements to make.
So you may have seen my little bean pole as you came in. We would really appreciate it if you could go fill it out. We're just trying to see how you heard about this show so we can do a better job of promotions. So I have a whole tub of mints pretending to be beans. Please pick one up, put one in your mouth, and put another one in a cup that tells us how you heard about us. We would really appreciate that. There's also a feedback form online that we'd love you to fill out. And there are two young ladies who will be circulating and perhaps get video interview feedbacks from you. If you feel like it, please flag them down and tell us what you like so far so we can tell more people about it. Thank you. 10 minutes.